What's really the best thermal paste on the market? Last time around, I tested out a slew of pastes, anywhere from the $2 Deep Cool Thermal Compound up to the Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut. But this time around, we're going with the absolute best thermal pastes on the market. I'm talking top tier Noctua, liquid metal, even a thermal sheet from Thermal Grizzly. So strap in while I introduce to you the new challengers. First is the tried and true Noctua NT-H2. There are a few names in the space that are so revered and respected when it comes to cooling solution, whether that be thermal paste, CPU coolers, and fans. So naturally I had to include their flagship compound in today's tests. Secondly, we have the Corsair XTM70. Corsair is widely known for having really high quality hardware and software and a variety of PC components. But this XTM70 is marketed for AMD and Intel processors up to 250 watts. So let's see how it compares to its competitors. Third, we have the Thermal Grizzly Carbonate Warmalite Pad. It's very German or Germanic. So if you're curious how it's spelled, I'm gonna have the editor put it right here because there's no chance of me ever saying that right. The thermal sheet is one of the newer innovations in the market, and one of the benefits of it is it's not actually liquid, so you shouldn't have to worry about it drying out over time. I've actually seen some rumors that it could last for up to 15 years. That means this thing could outlive your power supply. But there are a couple of downsides. First, because it's carbon, it is electrically conductive, so you have to be very careful about placement. Additionally, unlike a paste that you would spread across your CPU's heat spreader, you actually have to place this on your CPU die, get the CPU cooler block on top of it without it moving out of place. Otherwise, you really reduce its effectiveness. And that can be extra hard because it really is not adhesive at all. It's very slick and smooth. So until you put some pressure on it, it's very easy for it to slide around. So let's look at our last contender. Lastly, we have the king of thermal pastes. Well, at least that's what Thermalright calls it. Here we have the Thermalright Silver King Liquid Metal Thermal Paste. That may be a mouthful, but Thermalright is a very well-respected name in the cooling industry. They're very much focused on performance over flashiness and for reasonable prices. And this liquid metal thermal paste is no exception. At just $14 on Amazon, this could be one of the best thermal pastes out there. This thermal paste boasts up to 50% better heat conductivity and 10% better cooling performance compared to any other brand. Now, those two numbers don't quite make sense to me. I don't understand how you could have 10% better performance when you have 50% better heat conductivity. Anyways, we'll find out. Now, similar to this thermal sheet, this liquid metal is in fact metal, which means it's electrically conductive. You have to be super careful how you put this on your CPU. Definitely not recommended for beginner builders. If you get this outside of the CPU heat spreader and get it onto your motherboard, you could completely ruin your PC. So we're gonna have to be real careful when we use it. So with introductions out of the way, it's time to start getting to testing. But before we can do that, we're gonna take my old gaming PC here. We're gonna rebuild it on my test bench. And the reason for that is I need to justify the fact that I've been storing this test bench for over a year and never used it. To be fair, the test bench is actually something that's really useful, and I think it's gonna save me a lot of time for some future videos that I have planned. But for the purpose of this video, it's just a little extra time I'm gonna have to spend. Anyways, let's get this stuff off the bench and get my PC rebuilt. Right, now that everything's clean, we can try out the Noctua NT-H2 thermal paste and get started on those tests. This box appears to be childproof. Is this glued shut? Yes, they glued their box. And look at that, Noctua even provided some cleaning wipes. Very thoughtful. We don't need them, but thoughtful. We're gonna put a bunch on here, then we're gonna use our spatula to smooth it out and get it to the right thickness, and then we'll be ready to go. All right, time to start skimming off the excess. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's get our CPU cooler block on, and we'll get to testing. Something we actually haven't addressed yet, and I didn't really think about it at the beginning of the video, you might have guessed, this is actually the exact same PC setup as we used for the first thermal paste review video. So we should have a pretty decent apples to apples comparison, albeit we're now in an open air case. Besides that, it should be pretty close. I guess first let's find out if my computer still powers on. Well, that's a good sign, it's powered up. Let's switch over so you guys can see what's going on, and we'll start the test. Okay, so we've got Cinebench open and hardware info open. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set Cinebench up to run for 30 minutes. We're gonna monitor both the temperatures and the core clocks to make sure that if we are hitting high temperatures, we're at least gonna see what the peaks and averages are for the CPU speed. So, nothing left to do but to get started. Noctua test, begin. Well, we got that one saved. Looks like we peaked around 83 degrees on a couple of the cores. So we were able to maintain between 4.7 4.8 gigahertz, which means we didn't have any thermal throttling. So let's move on to the Corsair XTM70. Ooh, this Corsair one even came with a nice little spreader applicator kit and cleaning wipes. Interesting choice by Corsair to give you an applicator kit and then not give you any information on how to use it. Weird. But this nice little thermal paste applicator is pretty good. We're gonna use that. Seems way nicer than our little spatula we've been using. As far as these little 3M pieces that they give you to put on there, I think we're gonna leave those out. All right, round two. Okay, we got this XTM70 on there. One thing I would say, this applicator is really nice. However, the thermal paste itself, or at least the one that I got, was much drier, had a much higher viscosity than the Noctua stuff. So spreading it out with this was actually pretty difficult. I ended up having to waste quite a bit of the thermal paste in order to actually get it well spread out. So food for thought. All right, time to start the 30-minute test for the Corsair XTM70. All right, Corsair test completed. Ooh, we were at 84 degrees on several cores that time. I'm gonna say Corsair is probably not gonna be at the top of the list here. Time to move on. Next, we've got Thermal Grizzly Carbonaut. This will be pretty easy to put on and take off, so we're gonna do the liquid metal last since that is going to be the messiest. One nice thing while I'm cleaning this up about this thermal pad that we are about to use is, unlike all the other ones, you don't actually have to pay attention to how much you're putting on there. You may have to trim off some of the excess bit here just to make sure that it fits over your CPU die well. As far as having to put the right amount of thermal paste in, making sure that it's all nice and smooth and you don't have too much or too little, you don't have to worry about that with this. So that's a pretty huge pro in favor of the thermal sheet, even if the performance ends up being mediocre. This is such a weird looking little thing. It just looks like a tiny microfiber cloth. Okay, so ours is a little bit oversized here. So we're gonna have to take it off and trim it up a little bit. I trimmed a thin little piece off with my X-Acto knife here, and now it's ready to go. So let's get to testing on it. So is that 10% better cooling performance real or imagined? We're about to find out. That was immediately running really hot. I'm gonna double check and make sure that the thermal pad didn't slide around while we were installing the CPU cooler. So let's turn it off and check. Remember, I did say that that is one of the potential downsides of using this sheet, is that it can move around on you while you're trying to install. It might not be super obvious once we try to pull this off if it was actually out of place or not, but we'll have to do our best to see. It appears to be exactly in its spot. That is, that's not great. Okay, I'm back in Windows. The idle temperatures actually look pretty good. You can see down here we're in the mid-20s, just barely above room temperature. So maybe it was kind of seated improperly. We're gonna try it again and see what happens. 30 minutes, multi-core. All right, fingers crossed. Well, that one's complete, and it did idle at a very low temperature. We got some pretty serious thermal throttling. One P core hit 100 degrees C, multiple hit 97, 98 degrees C. I don't know if that comes down to maybe we're not able to put enough pressure on that piece of carbon sheet, or maybe we did something wrong. I'm not really sure, but needless to say, if you've got a cooler like I do, you might not wanna get one of these. One thing I am seeing here that I didn't read before, it does very specifically say here in the instructions, a high contact pressure has a positive effect on the cooling performance. So while the contact pressure we get from this Arctic liquid cooler might be enough for all of our thermal pastes, it might not be enough for this carbon sheet. Does that mean it's not as good as the thermal paste? Not necessarily, but it does mean that if you have just an average CPU cooler that can't get enough contact pressure, you might want to consider something other than this thermal sheet. We're going to put some of this Thermalright liquid metal onto our CPU, and this is kind of the scariest one just because the liquid metal is conductive, and if you happen to put too much on there, you can ruin your CPU, motherboard, and PC in general. So, you know, beginners beware, but we're professionals here. So let's get this ready to go, and we'll put it on there. Take our nice little carbon sheet off, put it back on the foam. You can even see on here that it looks like we got pretty decent contact on the exterior, but there's not a lot of contact in the center of this. So that could be due to the mounting scheme on this Arctic cooler. It could be due to like some bending in the brackets, or maybe not a super smooth, flat copper plate. But either way, it's really not the thermal sheet's fault that it didn't do well, but nevertheless, it didn't do well. All right, even though it's technically clean, we're still gonna take one of these cleaning wipes and wipe down the CPU and the CPU cooler just in case. Looks pretty clean to me. While that dries, let's open this bad boy up. All right, here goes nothing. So from what I saw, the key here is to put a small amount like that onto the CPU. Take one of these Q-tips and just spread it all around. This seems to be mostly just absorbing it, not spreading it around. Well, I guess we'll try that again. Okay, well, it took a hot minute and we almost didn't have enough because I'm not very good at using liquid metal, but you can see we've got the liquid metal spread on both our CPU and the CPU cooler block. So, you know, here goes nothing. One thing to note while I'm doing this, and we didn't really discuss it earlier, if you happen to have a CPU cooler that is made with an aluminum cold plate, so the plate that directly sits on top of the CPU, if that is made out of aluminum, do not, I repeat, do not use liquid metal. The gallium in the liquid metal will react with the aluminum and cause very bad things to happen. Bare copper, like we have on this one, will still, to some extent, have a bit of a reaction with the liquid metal, but not in a way that will cause damage or severe difference in its thermal properties. Well, it's time to fire it up and hope that I didn't get any liquid metal on anything that could ruin it. I think the liquid metal did the best. Looks like we topped out around 78 degrees, which is at least 2 or 3 degrees better than the next contender. Let me get these numbers together, then we'll show you the comparisons of all 4 put together. Psych! Okay, I felt that we did not do the thermal pad justice because we weren't able to get enough contact pressure with this thermal pad, but I have experience with the Thermal Grizzly Cryo Sheet, so I've ordered one of those. It's gonna be here in 2 days, so you'll see me in a 3rd shirt for this one video, and then we're gonna test that one out and compare it to the other 3. Well, we'll compare it to the other 4, but just know that the results of this Carbonaut was pretty much worthless because we couldn't get enough pressure on the die. Anyways, part 5 coming up. Well, like I said, I couldn't leave it by just using the Carbonaut. Clearly, we're not getting enough pressure from the CPU cooler to actually utilize its cooling capabilities. So I bought this. This is the Cryo Sheet. I have used this before on another PC, so let's try this out and see if we get a better result for the thermal sheet than the Carbonaut. All right, we got it all cleaned up. We have here my Cryo Sheet. The main difference you're gonna notice here, there's a little bit different color. It might be a slightly different material, but it also is much thinner than the Carbonaut. So hopefully that means we won't need as much contact pressure in order to achieve its full performance. So let's install this and run the tests. Well, if you look at the results here, you can see we ended up with pretty much the same story as the Carbonaut for this Cryo Sheet. Now, I know you might say, these do actually work. They just might need more contact pressure than your average AIO. So don't think that you couldn't use this in a really high-end custom water loop type build, but if you're just using an average AIO, you might not have enough contact pressure to utilize a thermal sheet. Time to tally up all the numbers and we'll show them to you. You can see that we've got the average and maximum temperature for the cores listed for each of these thermal materials. First, we've got the Noctua NT-H2 coming in pretty low on the average temperature in the low 70s. Similar story for Corsair right around 75. The Thermal Grizzly Carbonaut and the Thermal Grizzly Cryo Sheet both averaging above 90 degrees for the performance cores. And then the Thermalright Silver King going all the way down to 71 degrees on average. And then similarly looking at the maximum temperatures, Noctua and Corsair both averaging in the 83 to 84 degree range. Thermal Grizzly Carbonaut and Thermal Grizzly Cryo Sheet both hit 100 degrees. And the Thermalright Silver King hit a maximum 78 degrees on any of the cores. That is just insane. That is a serious performance difference. The maximum temperature for the liquid metal was almost the same as the average temperature from Noctua and Corsair. But this doesn't tell you the whole story. Let's move over to the CPU clock speed. What we did here is took the average value for all of the performance cores at the end of the Cinebench test as listed in the hardware info sheet and averaged them out and put them on here. You can see that the Noctua NT-H2 came in at 4,400. This might have been an issue of being a little bit late to the screenshot, so that might be a bit of a misnomer since it was so similar in every way to the Corsair. The Corsair XTM70 came in around 4,540 megahertz. And then interesting enough, Thermal Grizzly Carbonite and Cryo Sheet came in with significantly higher average clock speeds than some of the others. So even though they had poorer temperatures, they were actually allowing the CPU to boost higher for longer. And then of course, the Thermalright Silver King coming in with nearly 4,650 megahertz on average throughout that 30-minute test. I think we can sum all of this up with 3 basic conclusions. 1, liquid metal really does a better job of cooling, even if you're not going through the process of delidding your CPU and all of that craziness. But it is a lot more difficult to apply, and it has a little bit more inherent risk in the fact that if you get it on your motherboard or somewhere where it's not supposed to be, you could damage your PC. Second, a thermal sheet, while great for a high-end build with custom water cooling, is really not a great option for the average CPU cooler because it's not able to provide enough contact pressure to really utilize the performance of that sheet. And lastly, nice high-end thermal pastes like the Noctua or the Corsair were both more than adequate to cool our CPU. They're very reasonably priced, easy to use, and they'll last for 2 to 3 years before needing to be replaced. So really the conclusion is, if you're savvy enough to do it and you're willing to take the risk, liquid metal is the way to go.